For many years, people been asking me, are red-footed tortoise vegans or vegetarians? And I keep telling them, no, they're omnivores. So I decided to do a test to see which they prefer, vegetables or meat. Now, the initial spot they were not too comfortable with, so I had to put them back to their original feeding area. And straight off the bat, you can see one of the tortoises chose the pork chops. There was peppers and tomato. The tomato got some attention eventually by the other tortoise. I've not named those two as yet, but you can see here he was eagerly trying. But although I sliced the tomato, it was having some difficulties piercing it. That can happen sometimes. So maybe, but it was clearly interested in the tomato until it got close to the meat. Then, of course, it decided it was much easier to eat the meat. But as soon as he had a bite in that pork chops, let's appreciate the pork chops, they both started to really dig into it. You can clearly see they were enjoying that pork chops, yeah? Soon they both got stuck into that succulent piece of meat. Now, red-footed tortoises are what you call opportunistic omnivores. And by omnivores, it means they eat a variety of vegetable and animal matter. They also hunt for earthworms and other small, slow-moving things. But you don't get to see that a lot because they much prefer to walk around for an opportunity to feed. Most times they live on desert islands, and desert islands are really good grounds for nesting seabird colonies and other animals like island goats. So they may eat the occasional goat poop, the occasional dead seabird, or cactus and cactus fruit and flowers. Predominantly, they would also eat grass. But these two guys are free roaming on one side of my yard, so I always feed them with almost anything off the table. So they eat a lot of table scraps. That's why they're so fast growing. They do love the odd vegetable, but from my experience, they prefer to eat the meat. This could be because the cooked meat is much softer and easier to eat. So would be the canned meat. But I feed them a variety of raw meat, scraps from the dogs, scraps from the table before and after eating. So they have a well balanced diet. Just want to say here, if you're keeping red-footed tortoises as pet and you want them to grow to their full potential, you need to feed them a variety of things and different food groups. Just as you would, let's say, a human, get that fruits in, get the vegetable in, get the meat matter in. They do eat a lot of bones and stuff as well, so don't be afraid for them. They have a really good, strong choppers, as you can see them walking through this piece of meat here. They also use their front foot to help them rip things apart. They're fairly effective feeders when you look at them. I really like to just feed them, sit there and have a look because the way they get working at it, and they would normally eat something right up until the end. As you can see here, they made short work of that pork chops. The tomato eventually got a revisit, and you can see here she ripping through that piece of tomato. I think she's enjoying it just as much as she enjoyed the meat. But if you look in the background, you can see the other one has no interest in the vegetables whatsoever. He's still going at that piece of bone. Another thing you need to know that with these reptiles, they need to get exposure to sunlight. And if you don't have enough sunlight where you live, you will have to get artificial lighting to give them that UV rays. That way they have strong bones and they don't suffer from common disease known as metabolic bone disease. But these guys live outdoors, so they get as much sunlight as they need here in the tropics. These red-footed tortoises, they like to burrow under things. So one of these are always dirty because she burrows below a block and she dig into the mud so much that when the rain comes, she's in a puddle of water. Then she has to relocate. The other one goes and hide below one of those empty kennels. So they get there. Look here, back to the eating. That looks like a well-satisfied tortoise. So in the competition with vegetable versus meat, it's safe to say meat won, but vegetable got a fair amount of attention. Even the peppers got some attention in the end. This one was a bit camera shy, but if you look in the background, you can see still chomping away at that piece of bone. He wants to have as much of the pork chops as possible. Meanwhile, the pepper was ignored for so long. But when everything else was finished, Juan came back to the pepper and have a go at it. Could be because of the taste of the pepper. It could just be because the pork chop was more succulent, so was the tomato. So the pepper was left for last. But even the pepper got some attention. So the consensus is red-footed tortoises are opportunistic omnivores. But if given the opportunity, they would definitely eat the succulent piece of meat before they eat the vegetable. They can also feed on grass like a horse or something, but don't feed them with hay.